This is a piece of figured maple, 11 inches in diameter and 3 inches thick. And these are maple leaves from my backyard. And here I'm just drawing some reference circles so that when I place the leaves I can determine if they're centered and evenly laid out. So once I had them placed where they looked right, I drew some reference marks and then filled in the rest of the leaves. And once I have the pattern down, I can go ahead and get to work with my router. And the bit is a 1/8 inch by 7/16 inches long straight bit. And once I have the outlines done using this bit, I'll use a wider straight bit to remove the bulk of the wood from the leaf pattern. In this particular section, there's a wall that's going to be between each leaf to separate the resin. So I've got to be real careful and go very slow and deliberately. It's important to have very sharp router bits when you're doing something like this. Once the pattern's cut out, I made sure that the piece was level so that when I poured in the resin, it would not flow one direction or the other. And then I just pushed it around, which caused some overflow, but it wasn't a problem. I chose these colors because they're the natural color of the leaves, green in the summertime and a beautiful red in the fall. And here I'm just using a heat gun set on low to bring out the bubbles. Prior to turning on the camera, I had marked the four corners at 90 degrees. And then drawing those lines helps orient the faceplate because the holes for the screws are at 90-degree angles. So all I have to do is run those lines right down the middle of the holes on the faceplate, and it centers the faceplate perfectly. And here those reference lines that I had drawn earlier come in handy again. I can use them to determine where the foot of the bowl is going to be. And they also tell me where the edge of the pattern is, because I want the pattern at the very base of the bowl. I marked the tip of the parting tool that I'm using here at 3/16 of an inch because the resin itself is only 7/16 inches thick. I don't have a lot to play with here. So the mortise has to be very shallow. And I'll test it momentarily with the 4-jaw chuck that I'm going to use to hold this on when I reverse mount it. And there's the chuck. And you can see how shallow it was. I sanded the base of the bowl all the way to 500 grit, and then I touched up the resin to 1200. In here I'm mounting the 4-jaw chuck. 4 jaws means it has 4 pieces that expand out or compress in as you tighten or loosen it. In this case, I'm using it in expansion mode, which is my preferred method, and it expands the 4 jaws out evenly onto the surface of the mortise to hold the bowl in place. And since the mortise was so shallow, I'm using the tailstock to hold pressure up against the bowl as I take out the bulk of the inside. And once I knew I was getting close to the resin, I pulled back the tailstock and pivoted the bowl outward so I could access it better. At this point, without that extra support, I had to be very gentle. Just the slightest catch could send this bowl flying off the chuck. Now that I'm down to the resin, I know exactly how much material I've got left at the base of this bowl. In the center, I don't have more than a 1/4 inch to play with, spreading out to 7/16 of an inch. So once again, ever so gentle with the passes. And then once again, I sand it to 500 grit and touch up the pattern up to 1200. And I'm very pleased with that. It turned out better than expected. The fiery figure alongside those leaves, the depth of the color. And I finished this with walnut oil. It's food safe, good for dry goods, fruit, nuts, and so on. This would look nice on a coffee table, or maybe the center of a dining room table. I hope you enjoyed the video. I sure enjoyed making this bowl. I'll be doing some more resin work in the future, so stay tuned. To all my subscribers, old and new, I just can't thank you enough. You keep me motivated. Close to 20K now. It just blows me away. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Help me grow. See you soon. Semper Fi.